these are young players that, for whatever reason, have kind of struck a chord with me. And Coby White's that guy. Like he's different this year, and
Yep.
he's been so good for that team. Started every game. At one point, I thought, maybe this guy really is just suited to be a sixth man. Come
Right.
off the bench, combo guard, get yours, right? Go be Jordan Clarkson, right? That's who Coby White is. And I think he's a little bit more than that. I think he's in today's league, this is more like what a lead guard looks like. And that's what Coby White looks like. And he's had a great year.
Most intriguing players now on sub 500 teams. We don't get to spend as much time always talking about the sub 500 teams, and there's a lot of them. You made a list of the most intriguing players. Where do you want to start?
All right, so I just went literally in order by just looking at how as the standings page pops up, and we were going with teams under 500, and I just went east-west because East is listed first. Really nothing to this list in terms of any particular order. Okay, I've just grabbed names off these teams. Some teams didn't get any names, which is sad because you're a sub 500 team, and I didn't find anything interesting to talk about. That's not a good place to be, right? All right, so first one I'm going to go with, in looking at the East, the first team that's under 500 in ninth place right now, Chicago. I'm going to go with Coby White. Coby White's really intriguing to me because of the year he's had. And he's only 20. And by the way, nobody on this list, I have 12 players, nobody's over 25 years old, which makes sense, right? Because if you're, I don't think a 33-year-old on a bad team is going to all of a sudden be like, hey, this is interesting. I've never seen that. Something new he's added. No, these are young players that, for whatever reason, have kind of struck a chord with me. And Coby White's that guy. Like he's different this year. And, he's been so good for that team. Started every game. At one point, I thought, maybe this guy really is just suited to be a sixth man. Come off the bench, combo guard, get yours, right? Go be Jordan Clarkson, right? That's who Coby White is. And I think he's a little bit more than that. I think he's in today's league, this is more like what a lead guard looks like. And that's what Coby White looks like. And he's had a great year. And look, they're still in the hunt, technically. They're going to be most likely a play-in team. But I mean, as far as like playing, they're not completely eliminated from that. They will get at least one game at the end of the year. That's a play-in game. But he's been really good this year. What do you think about Coby White?
I love him. I put this out earlier. I was wondering what other people's, who other people would put on their list for this type of player. And for me, Coby White would have been on my list as well. For some of the reasons you mentioned, I didn't like his game. He's not the mold of player I like, but I like guys that compete. And that's the thing that he's really showed me this year is that he's a competitor. He wants to win. He's played in big, he stepped up in big moments, and he just has an edge about him. And so to get to 20 points per game this year, 5.5 assists, that's big because it shows me that he is trying to improve. He's aiming at a target that I did not expect him to be aiming at. I expected him to be aiming at the Jordan Clarkson target, same as you just said. And he definitely seems to be trying to become a more well-rounded player. And then 41% on pull-up threes, that's an important skill set for a guy because that's, pick and roll, coming off pick and rolls and elevating. That's a big thing to have.
All right, next on the list, Jalen Johnson from the Atlanta Hawks.
Yep.
Freak athlete.
Yep.
You look, he's 22 years old. So, he's still just developing every year. And what he has done to improve from last year to this year is pretty dramatic. I mean, he's upped his scoring average from 6 points to 16 a game. Yep. He's increased his three-point percentage, still not great, but 28 to 33%, taking more than twice as many. So he's getting more comfortable with the shot. He's 51% overall from the field, which is really good for a small forward that wasn't known for his shooting necessarily when he came into the league. And he's getting almost 9 boards a game, right, as a small forward. So
that's one of his big skills.
Yeah, he's got the eye-popping, highlights that we've seen throughout the year. I mean, he does some stuff in the open floor or catching lobs or off, tipping dunks and stuff like that. But I just think I'm really excited about like what his upside can be if he's a grinder that's going to add more polish to his game. What do you think about Jalen Johnson?
He seems like a grinder because he has a grinder skill set, right? Like he plays with hustle. He plays with energy. To your point, he rebounds. So to me, he seems like all those things. And I'm with you. He's like a key piece of that team, a sneaky important piece of what they do. And the type of guy that I think you probably almost rethink your roster around when you're looking at, and I know there's been rumors, is it time to move on from Trae Young, this or that? He's a guy that you look at and say, yeah, but we have other pieces. Like we can make a trade and have other high-level role players around whoever it is we bring in that can fit. And he's a guy. So I love that you brought him up. I'm a big fan of his. Haven't watched a ton of him, honestly, in the last week or, since post All-Star, but I've really liked his game.
I agree. I wasn't watching a lot of Hawks games here the second half of the season. No need to, but
triple-double threat on times too. It's crazy.
Of what they have on that roster, he's, I think, clearly the most intriguing piece. All right, now we move on to the Toronto Raptors, and I'm going to go with Scottie Barnes.
Yeah.
Because I just think another 22-year-old, and look, his coach came out and said he's going to be the face of the league, or he is the face of the league, or will be the face of the league, I guess is what he said. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, particularly when you look at what's going on with Victor Wembanyama. I don't know. he's going to leapfrog a lot of guys that have been in the league a couple years more, I believe. But I just look at him, and he's an interesting player because I'm curious to get ultimately what is Scottie Barnes to you? Because to me, I'm still not sure, and that's why he made this list. I'm still not completely convinced overall what is his upside offensively in this league. Because that's a big thing. If you want to be a legitimate star, your team's going to have to win a ton of games, and you are the driving force behind that offensively. Typically, there are very few guys in this league that are all league caliber teams, all league caliber players, right? So first, second, or third team all NBA, which people think this guy can be. Well, first of all, you got to win 50 plus games probably to get in that category, most likely around there. Then it's got to be, you're the engine for this thing every single night, which means a lot of nights you're the leading scorer. I don't know if that's what Scottie Barnes ultimately is going to be. What do you think?
I love Scottie Barnes. I'm a huge Scottie Barnes guy. And I like your point about, here's what I love. I love weird players. I love players that don't fit necessarily into a box, but have high IQ and impact the game in a lot of different ways. He's one of these guys, almost 1.5 steals and blocks per game from him. And that seems to me like the floor for him going forward. He's probably the best shot blocking guard, or wing player, I should say, in the NBA. Non-center, non-power forward, best shot blocker there, because he has he's a quick jumper. He really reacts to things quickly, has good anticipation, and he has the longest arms. And then we put the stat out from our Twitter handle the other day, players with the most Z-bounds. Z-bounds are when you rebound your own miss and then put it back in. He is second in the NBA at that. I think Jokic is number 1 by a mile. Scottie Barnes is really good at that skill as well. And what that tells me to me is, 1, good touch, and 2, because you're grabbing the ball and lifting back in, and 2, just good anticipation. That's a lot of just the steals, those types of rebounds, the contested rebounds. To me, that's anticipation skill. He has a lot of that. I think he has a tremendous feel for the game. You're right that he's weird as a cornerstone piece, because I don't think he'll ever be a super volume scorer. I think he'll top out at 24, 25 points per game. But to me, he's a great type of player to put around a cornerstone piece. He's a great number 2 because he does so many different things. So I think I'm higher on Scottie Barnes than just about, I'm in the 99th percentile of people that are high on Scottie Barnes.
Yeah, I like him a lot too, but I definitely think that you're probably a little bit, maybe 1 tier up from me in that discussion. And it's the kind of thing we get to revisit every year with him because he's so young. And over the next 2 to 3 years, I think that's when you're going to really find out, ultimately, what this guy's place is in pecking order in the NBA. I just found him interesting because of that reason. Not much else on that roster that I find really interesting. Next, I got 2 guys from this roster that are intrigued me. It's Charlotte. Not a lot of reasons to watch Charlotte, particularly once LaMelo went down. The first one is clearly Brandon Miller. We did a whole segment on him. We did a long, deep dive on him, so we don't need to go too much on him right now. But they got it right. That guy can play. That guy can really, really play. And he's gotten so much better as the year has progressed, and he's continuing to get his 3-point percentage up. He's doing more with the ball creatively. He just flat out can score, and he does it really effortlessly. And for that reason, he's really interested me. And the other guy is Mark Williams. Mark Williams has caught my eye when I've watched him play. And I think, I don't know if ultimately, this is where, he's going to end up, finding his true niche, where his true value is, because maybe it's going to be on a team down the road, Adam, that's really good at playing for something that can really use a guy that rebounds the ball the way he does. I mean, if you play him significant minutes, the dude is going to go get boards. He's only playing 26 minutes a game. He's basically a double-digit rebounder. He goes and gets and So for me, the guy that plays with that kind of energy, that's got that kind of bounce, he'll finish anything you throw to him. He's 65% from the field, so everything you throw to him around the rim, he dunks and finishes. He's an intriguing player for me that no one's going to even talk about or notice because of their record, and you're not really watching those games anymore, and his scoring numbers aren't really anything they're going to jump out. But he's basically, 13 points, 10 boards in 26 minutes. Pretty good.
Yep. And you talk about the pairing with LaMelo. I mean, that's what you're looking for, is some guy that can do the things that he does. So I'm with you on him. He's an intriguing player. I like that you brought up Brandon Miller, because he's another one that 16.7 points per game it seems like it's not that much. That's a lot of points for a rookie, especially when you factor in he wasn't scoring like that right out of the gate. So I was trying to look it up as you were talking, players to average 16.5 points their rookie season. And there are 24 players in the last 15 years. That's not that many, right? That's 1.5 per year rookie players will average that. I know numbers are a little inflated this season, but the names that are on that list, I'm trying to see who the worst player is, because you're talking about Blake Griffin, Karl Anthony Towns, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Luka Doncic. These are the star players. So for Brandon Miller to be in that group, it's under the radar that he has been scoring at volume as a rookie.
Love it. All right, jump to the West. First team that comes under the Mendoza line, as I call it, Utah. Collin Sexton for me. And this is a guy that's been around. So some of these other names, haven't been around as long. This is his 6th year in the league, but he's 25 years old. And the reason he's interesting to me is because people forget this guy averaged 24 points a game in Cleveland his 3rd year in the league, and was doing crazy things on a nightly basis that we were all watching and intrigued by. Then he had this serious knee injury. He played 11 games the following year, at 48 the next year, which was his first in Utah, and then finally back to full health this year. 62 games, 39 starts, and his numbers aren't what they were back then, but his minutes are still down from that point. He's only playing 25 minutes a game, but he's averaging 18 points a game. And more importantly, when I've watched Utah play, which during one stretch when they were getting hot, we were watching him a lot, I was like, he's made it back. He's all the way back athletically. Right. And so I think there's even more upside there for him, because we were so enamored with him that early in his career, and he kind of had the knee injury, went away. You're thinking, well, if that guy lost some bounce and some quickness, then guess what? 40 other guys in the league or just became Collin Sexton. And he's surpassed that. He's made it back to a level of quickness and athleticism that kind of separate him, along with his shooting ability, 40% from the 3-point line again. So I'm just really intrigued by his comeback and what's the future holds for him, because he's only 25 years old.
The assist to 4.7 assists per game. To me, his vision, his passing, because he's a small, quick guard. So how do you hang around the league? You've got to develop the point guarding part of this. And while I still think he has more to go, it's a huge improvement over year. I mean, his last 2 years, he's basically at 2.5 assists per game. This year, he's almost at 5. So that's a big jump for him, and it shows when you watch the tape as well.
Also, teammate of his, Keyonte George, very interesting to me, right? He's been really good. Got some starts for them, and he's been a little streaky, but his upside on a given night has been enough for me to see that he can play. And they've had him on the floor when the games were really important there during that stretch. They were kind of getting their ship right. He was on the floor at the end of the games, and for a young player, 20-year-old, to be out there in that environment with some vets, and the ball was in his hands quite a bit, that told me a lot. So I just think Keyonte George is a really interesting prospect to watch for them as well. One of the reasons you'd watch Utah.
For sure. Good measurables on him too. He looks the part. Just to me, a long, lanky point guard. So I like him as well.
All right, Houston, how about Sengun? Right, you got to put him on the list, because we're still trying to figure out what exactly he is. He's super skilled, so talented. There's a lot of Jokic in his game. There's no denying that. Probably the closest replication we have to just the way he plays and stylistically the way he plays.
No question.
And so the question is going to become, what at his best is that going to mean in terms of putting people around him, and to what heights can you carry a franchise? That's what's very intriguing about him, because again, so young and so skilled and so talented, but on a team that people, we were watching him early, and then they kind of fell off, and we're not watching Houston as much anymore. What do you think? What do you think about Sengun's year and ultimately upside?
The thing I'm most curious with him is just going to be his touch, because for me, that's the big difference between him and Yoke. Also size. Yoke just is a bigger bodied guy, and he uses that to his advantage a little bit more. But also the touch. When Sengun entered the NBA, he did not look to me like a guy that was going to be a strength of his. Floaters, little jump shots, and finishes around the basket. Because if you're not, he does have more athleticism than a Jokic, and he flexes it every now and then, but he's not going to be a super athlete where he's just spinning and dunking on guys constantly. So you're going to have good touch on those shots. And this year, shooting 69% 0 to 3 feet in the floater zone, he's up to 50%, which is just a slight increase year over year. But to me, that's going to be the major pressure point for whether or not he's your number one guy that you build around, or whether he's a supporting piece. Is, can he score with the jump hooks? Can he become an elite scorer there? Because that completes all the pressure that he puts on the offensive end of the floor.
All right, next team. I'm going to give you a choice because I got two guys from this team, and they're probably not deserving of having two guys discuss. So, do you want to talk about Shaedon Sharpe, or you want to talk about Scoot Henderson?
Man, we got to talk about both of these guys, to be honest.
Right,
let's start with Shaedon Sharpe. Start with Shaedon Sharpe.
Shaedon Sharpe, man, oh man, so interesting, so intriguing. You talk about bounce, my goodness, and like loves thriving on the baseline as a cutter, slasher, driver. That's like his favorite area of the floor. Still trying to figure out how good ultimately his shooting splits are going to be. Like, can he really develop into that guy? You combine the athleticism with the ability to be fairly consistent from the 3-point line. I think he plays very, very hard, and that's a great quality because I think he does want to be great, and you can't help but deny you're intrigued when you see that level of athleticism. What do you think about Shaedon Sharpe?
I think he's going to be one of those. And it's not that they don't, I mean, they have Simons, who's really good, but they have a lot of youth in their backcourt. And I think he's a guy that is going to shine if you stick him with a better point guard. But I love him. I actually am. Shaedon Sharpe to me is probably, for me personally, more interesting than Scoot Henderson, but they're both interesting.
All right, let's get into Scoot then, because look, I personally felt that this was a can't miss pick. I really did. I just thought, this is what the modern NBA was built for, a guard like this that can come off ball screens with that sort of explosiveness. And, his shooting was streaky, but it was like, his mechanics aren't what I would call classic, but the ball was going in a lot against his level of competition. It hasn't really that much this year. And look, that there are a lot of guys that struggle to shoot early and figure that out. The more I watch him, I'm thinking maybe this guy Scoot Henderson caps out at a 42, 43% type of shooter from the field overall. And he's in that 35, in a good year, 38% from the three. I'm just worried about the shooting numbers coming up. And then the main thing I want to see, though, I could live with that if the decision-making improves. Like he's basically going to turn the ball over almost every time for every assist he gets. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out too. And he's so young, and it's certainly not writing a final chapter on him, but definitely thought he would have a better year, particularly in an environment that's not really that competitive, where you're not feeling any pressure as the third pick in the draft. You're just trying to develop. I wish that I had seen a little bit more efficiency out of Scoot Henderson this year. What have been your views when you've watched him? First of all, what'd you think about him coming in?
Because I don't get into the draft. I'm doing NBA, too many things with NBA that I'm not watching, pre-draft stuff. So I didn't have big takes from him. Liked what I saw in Summer League. But the thing I question about him when I watch him in the NBA, when I really start to evaluate these guys, I am skeptical about players developing shooting, because some players do develop shooting, but it just seems like some people have an innate ability to grow as a shooter, and some people seem to me to not have an ability to grow as a shooter, and you don't always know who's who. And then the second thing is vision. I'm always skeptical at a players improving their vision / feel for the game, because that's another thing that just feels like there are players that have the aptitude to get in and watch tape and grow and learn from experience. And there's some players that go 10 years in the league and still don't read the court at all. And so I don't know. So, because to me, he has a long way to grow. If he's going to be a star player, he needs to be a better decision maker. But when I watch him play, he just seems to me like the type of guy that's never going to have elite feel for the game.
I think that's all fair assessment. And, the great thing about this list, and we got one more guy on it. The great thing about this list is that there's just still, for the most part, so much more upside and years before we have to make final determinations on these players. All of these guys, for the most part, right? They've got time. and there's no telling what because one thing you can't do is look inside a guy's chest. You cannot determine how bad do you want it? Like, how hard are you willing to work to tighten up the weaknesses in your game? So
But
the last
see,
one
this is the thing. Hold up, Blakes, because this is the thing: is I trust he's going to work really hard, but the things he has to get better at are almost not solely dependent on hard work, and that's why I brought it up. Shooting, there are guys that take 1,000 shots a day all summer and don't improve as a shooter. Vision, there are guys that study and study and study and still don't feel the game, and that's why I bring it up. But I do think, look, the guy's a super athlete. He plays incredibly hard on defense. He's going to be a player in this league for a long time. But to be a star player, he needs the things that are just so hard to gauge if a guy will grow.
All right, last one, last team. San Antonio Spurs have a particular player that's pretty interesting in Victor Wembanyama. We did a lot on him.
Too obvious almost, yeah.
I want a couple things I discussed with him on the air on TV today. I just want to kind of run by you. So I was asked to give a ceiling for him, and I said, well, that's by definition doesn't make a lot of sense because you're implying that there is a limit. And with a guy like this, I'm not sure that's even fair. So I just instead decided to describe him in this way. I think this is where I would view potentially he could go. Offensive dominance of a Joel Embiid. Defensive presence of a Giannis. And the entertainment value of a Steph Curry. Because I think he's that guy. He's going to be that guy you're going to have to see. You're going to have to see if they're playing. Eventually, he'll become that. And especially when the team gets better, and if that Spurs are coming to town, you're going to have to go see that game. I think he's going to get on that level. So I don't want to put limitations on him and what ultimately he can be. But I've seen enough to know that I think that the league's got a problem on its hands because he's getting really comfortable way faster than I thought he would. And I can't even imagine what another off season is going to look like to Victor Wembanyama coming into next year. And you know, how fast it will be before they get competitive. You predicted next year they would be relevant in the Western Conference. I think it might take
they could make trades. They could, if they make the trade. I don't think it's going to be just with Devin Vassell and you know, Keldon Johnson. I think if they retool their offense or their roster, I think they could become great.
Can I give you another thing that came up on the air today? They were asking me to say that, you know, in terms of impact, both ends, best rookie since. And I went back and I looked at the entire list of rookie of the years. And I think the name I had to go back to because of the defensive presence. And by the way, listen to the number of research gave me today. I couldn't believe this. When Victor Wembanyama, you might have heard this, when Victor Wembanyama is on the floor for the Spurs, it's the 6th rated defense in the NBA. Right. When he's off the court, they're dead last.
Yeah.
I think about that. Okay. So I thought I might have to go back to Tim Duncan, 97, 98. And Tim Duncan was 21 years old. He played 4 years in college, totally different comparison, but just in terms of he was 21 points, 11 boards, a couple of blocks, improved by 36 wins that year, by the way. But that was also because David Robinson came back after missing the previous year. But I think that's where I would have had to go. That came up, and I'm looking at Wembanyama, and I'm saying, man, defensively, there's just no telling how good he can ultimately be and how much of an impact he's going to have.
So my thing, you said the defensive impact of a Giannis. I think it's higher than that, just because I think he has a rare ability to be the greatest defender that we've seen because of his ability to play the perimeter and get steals and get I mean, he's getting a 5x5 his rookie season. He should have had 2 of them his rookie season, which is insane. To do that, you know, as a 20-year-old, the defensive ceiling, I am just completely sold on. Offensively, I'm a little more skeptical. Joel Embiid, interesting comp. He has that upside because he has all the.
Well, here's the real quick. Obviously, I'm not comparing style. He's not going to be a power player like Embiid. That's not what I mean. I'm just talking about his ability to score all over the floor as a big man. But you know, and at that level, like where he's hungry to do it every night. Like I can see him being potentially like a 30-point per game scorer in this league and doing it in a variety of ways. Like not just a guy that's going to be a perimeter shooter like Dirk, not just going to be a post-up power player like Shaq. Like some morphosis of the two of them. I think that's why Embiid kind of came to mind because he controls the middle area of the floor. He's a power player. He shoots threes. I think Wembanyama is going to be able to do all of that.
He's hard offensively. He's harder for me to project than defensively. Defensively, I just think his upside is literally the best defensive player of all time. Just anybody that comes in at 20 years old and puts up a 5x5, and puts up 5x5-esque numbers consistently to me. I look at it and I go, it's not easy to get 5 steals. It's not easy to get 5 blocks. It's not easy to do both in the same game. He's doing it already. So his upside is insane. I think it's a good list, Legs. It's a good list. It's good to kind of give some shine to some of these sub 500 teams.
Because with the exception of Wembanyama, or one of these teams getting hot, and we have to talk about them, a lot of these guys, unfortunately, are not going to make our show too much the rest of the year. And that's why we thought it'd be a good time, because from this point on, with what's going on with these, these races and these teams trying to figure out who they are still that are contenders potentially, they're going to get all the shine the rest of the year. They're going to all the light. Wembanyama, we're always going to do an update on him, but the rest of those guys, the rest of those guys probably aren't going to get much talk. So we wanted to give them an opportunity today.
And the nice thing about the NBA is there are 20 teams in the playoff hunt right now. That means most of the league, it's not like we're cutting out 25 teams, only talking about 5. There's 20 teams that are still relevant to the postseason conversation, and that's what makes it pretty exciting.